Dawn rises over the mountains, spilling soft light upon the temple roofs. The world awakens in silence, yet within Ryo's mind, a storm brews. Thoughts race. Unfinished chores, imagined conversations, memories that sting. He sits cross-legged in the meditation hall, eyes closed, but inside, his mind refuses stillness. The more he tries to silence it, the louder it becomes. Each thought seems to multiply, pulling him further away from peace. Outside, a bell tolls, deep, resonant, unmoved by his struggle. Across the hall, Master Daichi watches the young monk's trembling breath, sensing the turmoil that only earnest seekers know. The morning wind enters through paper windows, brushing against Ryo's face like a whisper of compassion, but he does not yet hear it. The battle between silence and sound has only begun. The bell's echo fades, but Ryo's mind remains restless. He opens his eyes, expecting calm, yet the same thoughts swarm: unfinished duties, doubts about worthiness, the wish to impress his teacher. The harder he tries to escape them, the tighter they cling. Around him, other monks sit unmoving, as if sculpted from patience. His breath shortens. He recalls Daichi's teachings. A still pond reflects the moon, but if you stir the water, even the stars vanish. Ryo forces a deep inhale, then another. His chest feels heavy. The chatter grows unbearable. Why can't I do this? Everyone else can. A faint frustration trembles in his lips. The scent of incense mixes with sweat and regret. And somewhere beneath the noise, a whisper begins, an awareness not of thoughts, but of their movement. He does not yet understand it, but it watches quietly. After meditation, Ryo walks into the courtyard, his sandals whispering over stone paths slick with dew. His mind is still buzzing, words chasing each other like restless birds. Elder monk Kenji, tall and broad-shouldered, sweeps fallen leaves beneath the cherry trees. Little Aki runs circles around him, laughing softly. Ryo forces a smile, but can't hide his frustration. My head won't stop, he confesses. Kenji chuckles. The mind's job is to talk. Silence isn't its nature. Awareness is. Ryo frowns, not understanding. Aki pauses, holding a fallen leaf to the sky. If you stop chasing them, leaves fall quietly, he says, echoing wisdom beyond his years. Ryo laughs softly, but his eyes betray confusion. Kenji nods toward the meditation hall. Even Daichi once fought his mind's noise. He learned not to silence it, but to listen. Ryo turns toward the distant temple bell, its echo steady and calm. Something inside him stirs. That afternoon, Ryo works in silence, carrying buckets of water from the well. Each footstep echoes his thoughts. Too slow, too heavy. Not enough. Every motion feeds the voice within. He stops by the well, staring into its dark surface. For a moment, he sees not his reflection, but rippling fragments of his mind's chatter. Behind him, footsteps, soft, deliberate. Master Daichi stands there, hands folded behind his back. His gaze is calm, like still water after rain. The well speaks when disturbed, Daichi says gently. So does the mind. Ryo bows deeply, shame pressing on his chest. Master, I can't stop it. Daichi's smile is faint, almost invisible. Then, stop trying. Ryo looks up, uncertain if he heard correctly. The old monk gestures toward the forest path leading east. Meet me at dawn tomorrow, he says, and walks away. The wind rustles through the trees as Ryo watches him disappear into the mist. Night falls upon the monastery. Lanterns flicker in the hallways as Ryo prepares for rest, yet his thoughts still murmur beneath the hum of crickets. He recalls Daichi's words, then stop trying. The phrase repeats endlessly, puzzling him. Lying on his futon, he listens to the faint creak of wood, the distant call of an owl, the the rhythm of his own breathing. Slowly, something shifts. For the first time, he notices that he is not his thoughts. He is the one hearing them. The chatter loses a little of its power. Moonlight spills across his floor, illuminating his face. He whispers softly, "Tomorrow, I'll try to listen." Outside, the wind drifts through bamboo, carrying the scent of incense and rain. Somewhere beyond the walls, Master De Chi sits in meditation, eyes closed, smiling faintly as the young monk unknowingly takes his first step toward silence. Morning mist clings to the mountain path as Ryo follows Master De Chi through the cedar forest. Neither speaks. The sound of sandals on damp earth and the soft cry of distant birds fill the silence. Ryo's mind, usually tangled with words, feels strangely heavy today. He wonders what the master intends to teach him, but dares not ask. The world around them breathes in rhythm. The hush of wind, the drip of dew from branches, the faint rumble of a waterfall far below. The forest feels alive, ancient, almost listening. As the first light filters through the trees, Daichi finally stops and turns. His voice is calm, barely louder than the wind. When you walk, walk. When you think, know that you think. Then he begins again, each step a lesson unfolding in silence. As they climb deeper into the forest, Ryo's breath grows uneven. His thoughts return, wondering if Daichi sees struggle, if he's doing this wrong, if he will ever find peace. Each thought grows into another, until the forest's silence feels deafening. He catches himself sighing. Daichi keeps walking, undisturbed, each step landing like a soft drum beat. Ryo clenches his fists, frustrated at his own noise. The forest's calm seems to mock him. But as he watches Daichi's slow, steady pace, something curious happens. His thoughts briefly pause, mirroring the old man's rhythm. In that small space between two thoughts, the sound of birdsong slips in, pure, unfiltered, real. Daichi halts near a small stream cutting through the forest. The water murmurs softly, gliding over smooth stones. Without a word, he kneels and dips his hand into the flow. Ryo watches, confused. "Do you hear it?" Daichi asks. Ryo listens. Only the sound of water. Unbroken and endless. When the mind chatters, Daichi says, it tries to be like this stream. But it cannot flow freely because it resists its own sound. Ryo kneels beside him, staring at the ripples. Then, "How do I stop resisting?" he asks. Daichi smiles faintly, "By listening until the noise no longer belongs to you." The words sink deep, though their meaning remains distant. The two sit beside the stream in silence. Ryo tries to listen. To the water, the wind, the faint rustle of leaves. But his thoughts keep intruding. Slowly, though, he notices something new. Every sound, even his thoughts, arise and fade within the same quiet space. It feels endless, like the forest itself. Daichi picks up a pebble and tosses it into the stream. The ripples widen, then vanish. Every sound returns to silence. Daichi says softly, "So do you." Ryo feels a strange peace settle in his chest. Brief but undeniable. The chatter hasn't stopped, but its grip has loosened. As the morning brightens, Daichi rises. "Ryo," he says, "listen not to silence, but to the space between sounds." The words hang in the air like the final note of a bell. Ryo listens again, to birds, to water, to his own heartbeat. And for the first time he senses that all sounds emerge from the same vast stillness. His thoughts begin to slow, not because he forced them, but because his attention has shifted. Daichi looks toward the horizon where sunlight spills over the valley. "That space," he says, "is your true mind. When you rest in it, the chatter will rest too." Ryo bows deeply, gratitude rising like dawn within him. The morning mist lingers as Daichi and Ryo return to the same stream. The air smells of pine and wet earth. Without speaking, Daichi gestures for Ryo to kneel beside him. The old master dips both hands into the current, then lifts them, letting the water spill back into the stream. "Hold it," he says softly. Ryo cups his own hands, trembling slightly, trying to contain the water. It slips through his fingers faster than he expects. He tightens his grip. More escapes. "Why can't I keep it?" he asks. Daichi replies, "Because you're trying." The master's tone carries no reproach, only quiet truth. Only quiet truth. The stream continues to flow, unconcerned. For a moment, Ryo looks into his hands, watching the last droplets vanish like fleeting thoughts. Frustration rises in Ryo's chest. He tries again, cupping more water, holding tighter, but the harder he clenches, the faster it escapes. His thoughts shout over one another. "I must do better. I can't fail." Daichi watches silently, eyes filled with compassion. "When you fight the current," he says, "you lose both the river and yourself." Ryo lets his hands fall, water splashing over his lap. He looks up, breath ragged, and sees the old master's reflection rippling beside his own. The two faces distort, merge, then disappear. For the first time, Ryo notices that his reflection cannot stay still when the water is disturbed. Neither, he realizes, can his mind. Daichi's voice breaks the silence, low and steady. "Thoughts are like water," he says. "Hold them too tightly, and they slip away. Let them flow, and they shine." Ryo stares into the stream. The sunlight glitters across the moving surface, scattering into 1,000 shifting lights. The words settle deep inside him. He closes his eyes, hearing only the rhythmic flow, neither clinging to nor pushing away the sound. For the first time, he feels the current's softness instead of its resistance. Daichi's expression warms, a hint of approval, not for perfection, but for openness. The young monk's shoulders loosen, and in that simple gesture, the lesson begins to take root. Time drifts unnoticed. Ryo sits by the stream, watching ripples move past leaves and pebbles. The forest hums with quiet life. He no longer forces his thoughts away. He simply observes them. They come and go like the current itself. Daichi says nothing, content to let silence teach. Birds call overhead. Wind rustles the cedars. Ryo notices how every sound arises, fades, and disappears into the same still. A strange joy stirs in his chest, a peace not earned, only revealed. Daichi glances at him and smiles. "Now you are beginning to listen," he murmurs. Ryo bows slightly, his eyes bright with realization. As the sun reaches its peak, Daichi rises, brushing his robes. "The river does not struggle to flow," he says softly, "nor should you struggle to think or not think." Roy gazes at the water's surface, watching sunlight dance on its ripples. "But master," he asks, "how do I live in that flow?" Daichi smiles. "By remembering that the river does not flow through you, you flow through it." The meaning sinks slowly, like stones through water. Ryo closes his eyes once more, feeling the gentle pull of the current. The chatter of his mind quiets, not by force, but by grace. He breathes, and for the first time feels part of the silence that has always been there. Night has fallen upon the monastery. In the meditation hall, candles flicker like small suns, their flames reflected in rows of calm faces. Ryo sits among them, cross-legged, eyes half closed. The scent of sandalwood fills the air. At first, his thoughts swirl again, echoes of the past, worries of failure, the endless hum of self. But now he does not fight them. He simply watches. The voices come, then fade, like fireflies over water. The more he observes, the more stillness grows between them. Outside, the wind moves softly through bamboo, whispering a rhythm that matches his breath. In that quiet, he feels the weight of his body disappear. Only awareness remains vast and untouched. The hall feels both infinite, as if the entire world were breathing through him. Within the darkness of his closed eyes, Ryo's thoughts begin to take shape. He sees old memories, his family's farewell, his doubts as a novice, the loneliness of endless practice. Each image rises, vivid and aching. The mind's chatter becomes voices again. You are not enough. You are pretending. You'll never find peace. But Ryo remembers Daichi's words. Listen, but do not own the noise. He sits unmoving, watching each thought drift like a leaf on water. The voices try to pull him back, yet their power weakens when he stops believing them. He realizes he doesn't need to silence anything. Silence is already underneath. Slowly, the thoughts fade, leaving only breath and flame. Minutes, or perhaps hours, pass. Ryo opens his eyes. The hall looks the same, yet everything feels different. Each flicker of the candle, each breath of air, appears sharper, alive. He hears the sound of his heartbeat, then the silence that surrounds it. The monks around him seem carved from light. A tear slips down his cheek, not of sorrow, but of relief. He whispers inwardly, "The mind is a mirror. It reflects everything, yet holds nothing." Across the room, Daichi's eyes open slowly, meeting Ryo's gaze. No words pass, but the old master nods once, a gesture of understanding beyond speech. Later, as the monks leave one by one, Ryo remains seated. The hall empties until only he and Daichi are left. The master's voice echoes softly through the quiet. "Who is the listener of your thoughts, Ryo?" The young monk turns slowly, unsure. "Find the one who hears the chatter, and you will find peace." Ryo closes his eyes again, letting the question sink beyond words. Inside, thoughts arise, but now he senses the space holding them, vast and still. The master smiles faintly, extinguishing a single candle before stepping into the darkness, leaving Ryo alone with the silence that is no longer empty. Midnight blankets the monastery. Outside, the moon hangs high, washing the courtyard in silver. Ryo steps out of the hall, the cool air touching his skin. The chatter in his head feels distant now, like echoes in another valley. He looks up at the moon's reflection in the temple pond. When the wind stirs the surface, the reflection breaks, and then reforms whole again. He bows to it gently. In that moment he understands. The mind need not be still to reflect truth. It only needs clarity. A smile forms on his lips as he whispers, "Thank you, Master." The night answers with silence, full, alive, complete. Morning sunlight spills across the monastery courtyard as Daichi prepares tea. His movements are deliberate, pouring, stirring, waiting, each motion precise and unhurried. Ryo kneels nearby, watching every gesture. The steam rises in soft spirals, blurring the lines between air and water. "Tia teaches the mind," Daichi says, gently. "It cannot be rushed. It cannot be forced." Ryo bows his head, the faintest smile forming. He realizes that the master has been teaching through silence, not words. As Daichi pours 2 cups, the soft clink of ceramic fills the air. "Drink," he says. "Taste without naming." Ryo lifts the cup, feeling warmth against his palms. When he drinks, the world briefly vanishes. No chatter, no effort, only presence. Daichi nods, his eyes glinting like sunlight on still water. As they drink in silence, Daichi sets his cup down. "You wish to control your mind," he says. "But tell me, Ryo, who is it that wants control? The question lands softly, yet strikes deep. Rio hesitates. Master. Daichi's smile widens faintly. And who is this? Miawas tries to silence itself. Ryo's lips part, but no words come. He looks down, feeling the paradox unfold within him. The chatter begins to rise again, but now he hears it differently, as if from a distance. Daichi continues, "You cannot stop the echo by shouting louder, only by listening deeply enough that you no longer need to speak." The old monk refills both cups. The sound of pouring tea feels like a bell ringing through stillness. Daichi places the teapot aside and gestures toward the window where sunlight falls in shifting patterns. "Thoughts are clouds," he says. "Awareness is the sky. You've been trying to control the clouds when all along you were the sky itself." Ryo follows his gaze. The world outside looks suddenly vast. Leaves swaying, light shimmering through them, shadows moving like breath. "So, I should watch the thoughts?" he asks. "Not watch," Daichi replies. "Be the watching." The watching. Ryo feels something loosen inside him, a door quietly opening. The noise within fades into the background, like wind passing through trees. For the first time, silence doesn't feel empty. It feels alive. Silence stretches between them, yet it hums with meaning. Rio closes his eyes, breathing slowly. Thoughts appear, then dissolve like ripples. Each one fades into something wider, softer. Awareness itself, the effort to control, to perfect, to achieve, simply falls away. He opens his eyes, and for a moment, everything feels still, untouched. Daichi studies him with a gentle nod. "There," the master whispers, "in the space between two thoughts. That is your true self." "You do not silence the mind. You awaken beyond it," Rio exhales, feeling the depth of that truth. The world seems to breathe with him, each sound now part of one great silence. The old master rises, placing a hand on Ryo's shoulder. "You've learned a trick," he says softly. "Do not try to quiet the river. Sit by its edge and listen. Soon you'll hear the silence beneath the current." Ryo bows deeply, emotion filling his chest. The morning sun floods the room, dissolving the last traces of shadow. Outside, temple bells begin to ring, each note pure and whole. Ryo whispers, "The silence was always there." Daichi smiles, eyes half closed, his voice barely a breath. "It was never gone." As the bells fade, only birdsong remains, bright, unhurried, eternal. Morning unfolds over the monastery courtyard. The world hums with life, sweeping, cooking, chanting, birds calling from the trees. Rio moves among it all, broom in hand, his steps slow and steady. For the first time, the chatter in his head no longer feels like an enemy. It's just another sound among many. Each breath, each movement flows like the stream he once tried to hold. Elder monk Kenji greets him with a nod. "You're quieter today," he observes. Ryo smiles. "The noise is still there," he replies, "but it no longer belongs to me." The air feels lighter, and even the sound of sweeping becomes a rhythm of peace. The ordinary has become sacred. Later, Rio helps in the kitchen. Steam rises from rice pots, the air thick with warmth and chatter. Little Aki rushes past him, carrying bowls too quickly. A splash of rice spills across the floor. "Slow down," Ryo says gently. Aki grins mischievously. "You sound like Master Daichi." Ryo laughs softly. He kneels, gathering the fallen grains, his movements mindful. As others bustle around him, he feels calm in the midst of noise. He notices his mind commenting, reacting, then lets it go. The clamor continues, yet something inside him stays untouched. The realization deepens. Silence isn't absence of sound. It's the space that holds it all. That afternoon, clouds gather over the valley. Rio works in the garden, trimming bamboo leaves as thunder rumbles distantly. Aki rushes toward him, frightened by the sound. "It's loud," the boy cries, covering his ears. Rio crouches beside him, resting a hand on his shoulder. "Ice," he says softly. But listen beyond it. Together they sit beneath the bamboo as rain begins to fall. Between the thunder and the drops, there's a strange quiet, a rhythm that neither sound nor silence can break. Rio realizes that peace isn't found after noise, but within it. The rain washes over them both, and for a moment, even the storm feels gentle. Evening settles, and the storm passes. The monks gather in the main hall for chanting. Rio joins, his voice soft but clear. Around him, dozens of voices rise and fall, merging into a single vibration that fills the space. He feels the sound not as noise, but as movement within silence, a tide that comes and goes. Each chant carries his mind deeper inward. His thoughts appear now and then, yet they feel transparent, harmless. Daichi's lesson echoes inside him. You are not the sound, you are the listening. Rio closes his eyes, and in the rhythm of the chant, he hears that vast, unbroken stillness once more. Night returns, quiet and clear. Rio walks alone to the edge of the forest. The air smells of rain and cedar. He stops listening to the wind, to the faint croak of frogs, to the echo of his own footsteps. Thoughts still come as they always will, but they no longer disturb him. He smiles, realizing he doesn't need silence to be at peace. The true calm has nothing to do with sound. It is awareness itself, vast and untouched. The world hums softly around him, alive, complete. In the distance, the temple bell rings once, deep and slow. He bows toward the sound, and the forest bows back. The dawn sky glows with pale silver as the temple bell calls the monks to meditation. Rio enters the hall quietly, each step grounded and light. The floor feels cool beneath his feet, the air still. When he sits, no effort follows. Thoughts drift in and out like clouds over a calm sea. He does not chase them. He does not hold them. He simply rests, the watcher and the watch dissolving into one. Around him, the breath of dozens of monks merges into a single rhythm. The first light touches his face, soft and golden. Inside that glow, there is no Rio, no silence, no noise, only presence itself. The mind is at rest because there is nothing left to control. Master Daichi stands at the rear of the hall, watching his student. He does not speak. The silence between them is full of understanding. In Ryo's stillness, Daichi sees his own reflection from decades ago. Restless youth turned to living peace. A faint smile touches his lips. The sound of birds outside filters in, blending with the monk's slow breaths. Daichi bows slightly, acknowledging the completion of a circle that was never truly separate. The master knows his role is ending, but the teaching continues through the silence of those who live. The world outside brightens, and the temple feels weightless, suspended between sound and eternity. Out later in the courtyard, Rio sits with little Aki under the cherry tree. The child watches a petal drift down and land on his hand. "It fell," Aki says softly. "Will it fly again?" Rio smiles. "Everything falls," he answers, "and in falling it returns." Aki looks puzzled, then laughs, chasing another petal through the air. Rio watches him run, hearing the echo of his younger self, impatient, seeking, restless. The sound of laughter rings clear and full of life. Rio closes his eyes and listens, not to silence, not to noise, but to the space where both are one. In that listening, He feels what Daichi meant all along. The teaching is alive in every sound, every breath. The wind rises, passing through the temple's bronze bells. Their tone carries over mountains and forests, rich and deep. Ryo stands beneath them, eyes lifted. Each sound fades, leaving behind the hum of silence it came from. He realizes that silence is not absence, it is the source. All sound, all thought, all life arises from it, and returns again. A wave of gratitude fills him, not just for peace, but for the noise that once tormented him. It was his teacher all along. As the final bell fades, Ryo bows to the air itself, to life, to everything that speaks without words. As dusk falls, the temple settles into stillness. Ryo walks once more to the same stream where his journey began. The water moves gently, its song unchanged. He kneels, dipping his hand into the flow, watching light ripple across his palm. Thoughts still arise, small, harmless murmurs, but they dissolve as quickly as the water slips away. The mind never truly stopped speaking. Ryo simply stopped listening, as if it were something separate. He smiles, the reflection of the setting sun dancing in his eyes. The narrator's voice closes softly. Peace is not found in silencing the mind, but in awakening to the silence that has always listened. The stream continues to sing as the screen fades to gold.